What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on in NFL world? How you guys doing in the division? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Some of y'all that are checking me out like, yo, this isn't the same dude. I promise you I'm the same dude. I just shaved up a little bit, guys. All right. So here's the deal, guys. Look, we're coming off a win. A win's a win. It's two in a row. Look, I would love to defend the home turf coming off this bye. We can get three in a row against New England because then I think it proves a lot of things about the Eagles. But with that said, guys, I want to keep it honest because if you're coming here, then you're looking for me to be honest with you guys, using my football knowledge to show you guys what I'm seeing, and then just talk about the issues as I see them. And I'm going to be real with you. I think we made a huge, huge mistake these last couple of weeks not addressing the wide receiver position. And I'll tell you what, the decisions are about to become very difficult as a result of that. All right, guys. So let's go back to the draft and let's talk about the draft for a minute, right? Because the Eagles spent their first three picks on offensive players, right? Our first round pick was spent on Andre Dillard, and to be quite honest, I think it was the right pick. Look, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown would have been a hell of a pickup. I mean, the guy ran a 4.22 40. I mean, don't get me wrong, that guy is a burner. But if you're telling me the options were Marquise Brown or Andre Dillard, bro, you got to have a left tackle before you got a Z receiver. I'm sorry. Some of y'all that are calling for that, I'm going to tell you straightforward, you're just flat out wrong. We knew going into this draft how old Jason Peter was, the likelihood of him being able to finish the season. Look, Dillard fell into our laps. You got to make that pick. I'm sorry, you have to make that pick. Now, some of y'all could argue that, hey, we had 2 second-round picks. You know, should we have traded back up into the first round and went after a player like Marquise Brown? That's number one, having a willing trading partner. All that stuff has to come into play, guys. Number two, now you're talking about losing out on essentially getting Miles Sanders. So, to me, he just wasn't in the realm of possibility. That's just the way, it's just the way I see it, guys. All right. I think where things get tough, though, is number one, I want to address something. No one that I've talked to on this channel in particular has said this, but I have watched other people comment on other channels and comment on websites, and they talk about, well, the Eagles should have went out and got a player like A.J. Brown. When they, normally when you bring up DK Metcalf, the next name that comes up is A.J. Brown. Here's the thing. A.J. Brown may or may not end up being better than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I don't know. But I will tell you this. They both play the same exact role. These guys are X wide receivers. These are split end wide receivers. Okay? A.J. Brown probably has a little more ability to stretch the field, a little stronger hands, but he's still a 4.49 guy, 4.5 guy. Like, he's not a burner, guys. Like, he's not a burner. I don't know that he's any really faster or that much faster than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So I'm not – that one I think is just ridiculous that's being thrown out there. I think where it gets tough is this, guys. There are a lot of receivers I would like to have that came out of that draft, but our positioning just sucked because, look, with the 53rd pick, I believe we had, right, 53, we spent it on Miles Sanders. I went Miles Sanders on this football team. I wouldn't give him away for many players. With that said, would Miles Sanders have still been around at 57? That's debatable. Because if Miles Sanders is still around at 57, then we could have easily leapfrogged teams for a player like we could have easily leapfrogged them, not necessarily for DK Metcalf, but Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman has 4.3 speed. He's a speed demon. Look, Mecole Hardman's still going to give you problems, though, because Mecole Hardman at times doesn't have the greatest of hands either. But he can definitely stretch the field. He's definitely a true Z receiver. And that's what I'm going to talk about, guys. There's only really a few Z receivers in this draft that I can think of. If I miss some, comment below, talk about it. I'm just talking about the big names I knew about going into the draft who I knew could could have productivity in the NFL. Number one, obviously, was Hollywood Brown and Marquise Brown, right? Obviously, he was the class act of the Z receivers, which is called flank receiver, okay? He was the class of them. Past him, you had guys like Mecole Hardman, who was a 4.33 40 guy, right? Definitely a Z receiver type body. Past him, you had guys like DK Metcalf, who had the height and speed combo going for him. DK Metcalf is also a 4.33 guy. Then you get guys like Terry McLaurin, who's a 4.35 guy in the 40-yard dash. Those to me were the guys: Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Mecole Hardman, and then Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. Those four to me were your four easily identified Z receivers. Okay. If you're going to criticize, I don't think it's necessarily always right to criticize Howie Roseman because we don't know what the draft board was in front of him. You really got to go. You got to go down to who's in charge of the college scouting, okay? And you have to look at Wydell and Wydell's staff on the scouting department because they're the ones putting the board in front of them. Look, there's no secret that in the round that we had taken J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, we could have split our value up for DK Metcalf just a few picks and taken DK Metcalf as opposed to JJ. That's never going to be avoidable with this draft. And J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's going to have to produce and show that, or he's always going to have this knock on him when it comes to the Eagles that we could have had DK Metcalf, but instead we drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So he's going to have to work that out on his own because people are always going to compare that. Look, you even go down into the third round, and that's Terry McLaurin was there. So, it can be argued we missed on the draft. All right. I want to go into a different aspect of this, though. I want to talk about what the hell just happened over the trade deadline period and what we neglected to do.
And here's Wentz getting some pressure. Hit as he goes. And the ball.
To me, the largest crime that's been committed this offseason was committed during the trade deadline. When we understood that Alshon Jeffrey had been playing banged up, wasn't getting the separation that he normally gets, was having difficulty even making the contested catches that he's normally pretty reliable for. Haven't really been given J.J. Arcega-Whiteside reps and, allowing him to try to build some chemistry with a young Carson Wentz. Knowing that Mac Hollins is our Z receiver and he's a much better blocking wide receiver than he is a receiving wide receiver. Knowing all this information, we had guys like Devontae Parker and Robbie Anderson available. We know that the price on Robbie Anderson was a second-round pick. I hear a lot of people telling me that they thought a second-round pick was too high to spend on a player like Robbie Anderson. I don't get it. I think people are damn nuts. Robbie Anderson is worth a second-round pick. He's a proven commodity that you plug him in, he can play. He can stretch the field. He brings back the versatility to this offense that's needed. The major concern I heard was, well, what do we do with Robbie Anderson if Desean Jackson comes back healthy? Well, we already knew that Desean Jackson was never going to be healthy for the rest of the season. So it's kind of a weird argument to make. It's also kind of strange because it makes the assertion that Robbie Anderson and Desean Jackson do not have the ability to play in the slot. They do. It's just ridiculous. Not getting those two players, Devontae Parker or Robbie Anderson, is really haunting us. And then the icing on the cake happened. The New England Patriots released Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon, who right now would probably be the Eagles' best receiver. Hands down. Look, if Alshon's healthy, sure, I'd take a healthy Alshon over him. Alshon's not healthy. Desean Jackson was healthy, sure, I'd take a healthy Desean Jackson over him. He's not healthy. Hell, even Josh Gordon was coming back off of a slight knee injury problem. But you know what? Certainly he's the most talented guy you could have, brought into this organization at the time. And we neglected to do it. Look, I personally never thought he would fall to us on the waiver wire. He did, and we didn't make the move. So now we passed up on Robbie Anderson, Devontae Parker, and Josh Gordon. And now we sit here with the possibility of possibly. Now, we don't know the health, and I'm waiting today to hear about Desean Jackson because it may be nothing, or it could be something substantial. But we do face the possibility now of walking into a game against New England without Alshon or Desean Jackson. How'd that work out for us earlier in the year? This is not good. This is not good, and this is on Howie. I don't necessarily put the draft always on Howie because I think sometimes Howie takes too much of the blame. But this was a move that Howie himself could have made. He had unilateral power to make such a decision and didn't address it. And that's scary to me. That's scary to me. Because I'm not too sure you look at this roster and you say to yourself, "Ooh, Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl team with this particular roster in place." I don't see it. I don't see it. Now we're people said that they didn't want Antonio Brown. What choice have you left yourself? I agree. I would have much rather had a Robbie Anderson, a Devontae Parker, a Josh Gordon over the troubles and the concerns that could have come with an Antonio Brown, who's clearly probably the best receiver that would ever touch an Eagles uniform in terms of abilities. With that said, you did nothing, and now you're almost forcing the issue to where the two most talented players that are out there in free agency are both on the commissioner's exempt list, so you don't even know when the availability would come or if it ever will come, but are clearly the only people who really have extreme amount of talent you can feel confident in. Antonio Brown is one, and Martavis Bryant is the other, who had an issue with substance abuse. Now, I don't know, personally, I don't know the guy. I don't know the situation, other than he got suspended for like violating the policy. I don't know how many times. It was like 4 times, guys, or some shit like that. But I mean, those are clearly the two most talented players that are out there. Because once you get past those two guys who are no guarantee to ever play again, I don't know. You're left with players like Dante Moncrief. Dante Moncrief, which, to be real with you, Dante Moncrief would be a good football player. I mean, the guy runs a 4.4. He's a 6'2", 220-pounder. He can get the case of the drops as well, though. But I'll certainly say this. At 4'4" and 6'2" and 220 pounds, he's going to stretch the field. That's the kind of guy that stretches the field. He's a little faster than even a Dante Parker. So Dante Moncrief, who was just recently let go by the Steelers, he's probably going to have to be in the decision at this point. I don't see how you don't address this position at this point, because past him, the only other guy I see is a veteran, Deontay Thompson. Deontay Thompson is very fast. He runs a 4.31 40-yard dash when he was younger. I don't know what he runs now, but he still probably runs in the 4.3 area. He's Desean Jackson type speed. He doesn't track the ball as well as Desean Jackson. His route tree is not as good as Desean Jackson. And the guy's he's never caught more than 30 passes. I don't even think he's even caught 30 passes in a season. But he's got that kind of speed that would definitely make teams pay attention to how fast he can get down the field. You look past Deontay Thompson, and now what are you looking at? Looking at a guy like Jordan Matthews, who at least has chemistry with Carson Wentz, but this isn't a guy that's going to stretch the field. He's more of a slot receiver. He's definitely got steadier hands than a player like Nelson Aguilar right now, but he's nowhere near as explosive as Aguilar is. So we've really backed ourselves into a corner to where when I'm looking at this, you either have to take a chance to talk to the commissioner to find out what are the prospects on guys like Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant being cleared to play again, and you might have to face the reality of him saying, I don't plan on letting them back in the league. So then you're stuck with, okay, the next most talented guy that you can go get is clearly Dante Moncrief. Dante Moncrief is definitely the next talented guy on that list. Big, physical, can stretch the field. Can also drop the ball at times. Deontay Thompson is a straight burner, not as, gifted in the receiving department. He doesn't, maybe he's just never had the opportunity to play with like good enough quarterbacks to warrant him getting over 30 receptions. I don't know. And then you get a guy like Jordan Matthews, who is he's short-handed, but he ain't stretching the field. I mean, we've really backed ourselves into a corner here. And I think there's only one other option left, guys. The other option is we have to change your entire offensive identity. And Doug Peterson's got to be more consistent with play calling, which means this offense has to run through one man and one man alone. Jordan Howard has to be the focus. Miles Sanders has to be the change. And then you got your two tight ends that have to be the guys that keep defenses honest at times, set up the blocks, get, 10, 12, 15-yard receptions to kind of keep teams from getting a little too comfortable creeping up on the line of scrimmage. Having Alshon Jeffrey, if he's healthy enough to even keep going, make a catch or two here and there, contest it. That's the formula. It's going to have to go through Jordan Howard at this point. If you do not go get someone who can stretch the field or someone who can at least put some kind of fear in a defense, your only option is to really become a run-centered offense. There's no way around it. All right, guys, that's my opinion on this. Y'all let me know your thoughts. Where do we go from here in your opinion? I think that we have to, number one, we have to go find a wide receiver, period. If the news comes back on Desean Jackson and says that even if they say like, oh, he's not going to miss the year, but he's going to miss a few more weeks again, you don't have a choice at this point. You're in crunch time of your schedule. You got to go get somebody, and you got to go get them like fucking today, because this is your bye week. This is the time to get a receiver, repetitions with your starting quarterback to get that some form of chemistry built with them, and to get them adjusted to the playbook, which I don't think will take that long for a receiver to learn the route tree. But you generally speaking, you want to get them in here now because 2 weeks is a good time frame to kind of get it together. I don't have anything else I can add to this, guys. You tell me what you think. I think this offense has got to go through Jordan Howard at this point. Jordan Howard has got to become the focal point. And by the way, that man just cha-chinged, because I'm telling you, you're going to have to pay that man. You're going to have to pay him, guys. All right, y'all. I'm out here. Peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And oh, yeah, EAGLES. We're sitting at 5-4. Let's see what Dallas does tonight against the Giants.